Hello everyone, I'm Trivedi from the Decor in India. We are a digital platform curating content about interior design, architecture, and construction community. So we are here to acknowledge the and embrace the contribution and acclamations of female architects and designers. And for that, we have with us here today uh, architect Trupti Doshi, founder of the Aruma Group, based in Puducherry. So she's an award-winning architect and a TEDx speaker who believes that buildings are nothing less than human beings and they're a part of the ecosystem and they embody a sense of history and civilization. She has been the chief co-founder of the Sri Aurobindo Society and the youngest Indian woman architect who has been featured by United Nations Environment Programme for co-creating Sharnam, that is a Rural Transformation Institute for Sustainable India. So, hello, welcome ma'am.
Thank you, Astha. Thank you, Decor Journal, for having me here, and many congratulations to you for celebrating this initiative of women in architecture.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for being with us today. Firstly, I would like to ask with you that what does architecture means to you? What is the notion of architecture to you?
I love this thought of architecture meaning different things to different people. To me, the way our body is a vessel to hold life, I believe architecture is also a vessel to hold the space that holds our life. So, architecture is to space what the body is to life. The way the body expresses and celebrates life, architecture expresses and celebrates space.
Wow, that is so beautifully put together. So, like, architecture is something that you always wanted to do, or it just sort of happened to you?
I always wanted to be an architect right from the age of 6 when I learned that my maternal grand uncle, architect Vanu Bhuta, was invited by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And he was one of, I think, some 600 odd entries which was selected to design the Rajghat. And finally, the design that we see of Mahatma Gandhi's Rajghat is my maternal uncle's, a grand uncle's design. So ever since I heard about that, I wanted to be an architect.
Wow, that's great. I think it's a forever kind of passion then.
Absolutely.
So, who has been your inspiration in all these years, ma'am?
My first and last inspiration has been Mother Nature. Right from childhood, I have loved spending time in nature, outdoors. I've been a very outdoors person. I love mountaineering, trekking, bird watching, in general outdoor activities, or even just conversing with a tree or a leaf. So Mother Nature has been my supreme inspiration, and I think behind all our buildings, it is nature that is the force behind it.
Great, great. That is beautiful. So, how has your journey been on in all these years, like from the college and practicing for like 15 years in the industry now? So, how has the journey been like?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2001, so I've been in practice over the last 20 years, and the journey has been replete with I should just say thrills. I mean, it has been really a thrilling journey, and I believe that as architects, we have the privilege that no other profession has, to see our creation rise out of the ground and become a part of the tree, the sky, the built environment, something that will encompass people's lives, something that will become a backdrop to people's lives. If you see your own photo album right from childhood, 80% of your photographs, you're either standing inside a building or outside a building.
Yeah.
Right? 80% of your photographs, which means architecture is the backdrop of your life. It is literally the backdrop against which we are playing out our lives. So I consider us to be in an extremely privileged profession of being able to create the backdrop of people's lives. It's not a stage set design which you create for a film. It is not a theater set design that you create only for 1 hour. It is the backdrop of life itself. So I believe we have a great privilege and a great responsibility. So my journey has been thrilling, absolutely thrilling.
That was indeed a very motivating and inspiring take on architecture. So I would like to ask you, ma'am, that you share with us, some project that was like different from the rest, that has like different journey to improve.
So my first project as an architect was the Sharanam Cultural Center, which I built completely out of unfired earth, right from foundation to roof. So the foundation, the pillars, the walls, even the roof is built with unfired earth. And we made these bricks on the very site by digging out soil from the rainwater harvesting reservoir. We got the soil, and with the soil we made the bricks, and with the bricks we made the entire 5-acre campus. So that project took me about 7 years to build, because we didn't have very many consultants and zero contractors on the project. So I was doing it hands-on completely by training the local unskilled people. And through the process, I had the opportunity to train around 450 local unskilled or semi-skilled people. So that is like a project of a lifetime. I mean, that is always like a benchmark. But I think a more appropriate project to mention in this context would be the Aruma French Villamens, which is a residential gated community built on sustainable principles. So not every architect gets to design a project like Sharanam, because those projects are, 0.001% of projects are like Sharanam. But a more appropriate example, the reason I'm stating Aruma French Villamens is because today in India, you see residences cropping up everywhere. And most residences, unfortunately, are like matchboxes, especially in metro cities. So how can we make homes more humane? I mean, homes is where we grow, we thrive, we laugh, we cry, we talk, we converse. Our entire life. So how can we make homes more humane? And that was the problem statement with which we started designing the Aruma French Villamens. And today we have a large community. We are starting the phase 2 of that project. And we designed it like a villament, in the sense that it had the ambience of a villa for the price of an apartment. So it had to be affordable luxury. It couldn't have been luxury, in the typical sense, but it had to be affordable luxury built on sustainable principles. So in that project, we did everything, right from climate intelligent design, where I did wind readings for 1 year before orienting all the 12 buildings. Studying the exact sun path, studying how the sunrise can be visible from the window, studying what the full moon will look like from which window, studying how the breeze can be diverted into the various sections of the house, making each house a Hawa Mahal. Literally, the house is a funnel of the breeze. So we did climate intelligent design, we did complete passive architecture. Of course, we did sustainable materials and technology. So we have the Neyveli Lignite Corporation not very far from Pondicherry, which is a huge source of fly ash as a waste product of thermal power plant. So we got the fly ash from there, and we made our own bricks with that fly ash. And these bricks are 3 times the strength of an ordinary country-fired brick, which is available off the shelf in the market. So an ordinary country-fired brick, for architects in the audience, has a wet compressive strength of plus minus 35 kgs per centimeter square. And the bricks that we made here at Aruma French Villamens have 110 kgs per centimeter square. So it's 3 times the strength. It is precise. The edges are perfect. So the amount of plaster that you need to put on the walls is minimal. Again, we use the bricks in a rat trap bond instead of a normal Flemish bond or an English bond, because of which we were able to introduce an insulation which further enhances the thermal comfort inside the home. So we are able to achieve a thermal difference of almost 8 degrees temperature Celsius between the outside and the inside. So thermally, these houses are extremely comfortable. We have reduced the air conditioning load by 65% in all these homes. And needless to say, we have done complete rainwater harvesting. We are segregating rooftop water from surface runoff. We are gathering the rooftop water. We are recycling it and reusing it for the plantation in the garden. We are treating the waste, the human waste, biologically, not chemically. And again, that is being that is being used for irrigation. We have solar compatible inverters. A lot of the lights and fans are on solar energy. And of course, the entire building is integrated with biodiversity. So you have gardens everywhere, in the balconies, on the rooftops, the landscape gardens at the floor level, vertical gardens. So it has been quite an example of a project for residential development. In addition to that, within the gated community, we also designed a multi-purpose hall, which is like a meditation space where the whole community comes together for knowledge sharing sessions. So, yeah, replete with challenges, but also extremely fulfilling.
Yeah. I think this project perfectly sums up why you are an inspiration for so many budding designers out there. It is very beautifully designed, I suppose. And so, ma'am, further, I would like to ask you that you share with us that during all these years of working in the field, did you face any challenges that were inclined towards gender equity?
I believe in our profession, once you prove your competence to your team, then gender doesn't play a role. I do believe that yes, construction is a very male dominated industry. It is completely a man's world.
Yeah.
And most of the times, if not all the time, I'm generally the only woman on the building site, or even in a room full of consultants. All my structural consultants are men, electrical engineers, plumbing engineers, project managers, they're all men. Most clients, I would say 95% of, I should say 99% of our clients so far at Aruma Architecture have been men. So it is definitely a man's world. However, I think once people recognize your competence, then they really value it, appreciate it, and then gender doesn't play a role. So I have not faced any gender inequality issues, neither on my building site nor with my team, with consultants, with clients, with collaborators. I haven't faced any gender issues. In fact, I have always seen men vouching for our design capabilities, our competence, our knowledge, skill, and most importantly, the attitude with which we design and build our buildings. I have always received a lot of support and respect from all my male colleagues.
That is so nice. I hope that is the case in the maximum of the female in the architecture fraternity for the females. So, ma'am, what keeps you driven towards practicing architecture? Like, it's a very consuming profession. So, at some point of time, you might have felt that you should leave it or maybe slow down the pace. So, what keeps you driven? Do you have like thoughts like these?
So I think the one reason which makes me jump out of the bed every morning is let's say if I were a chef. If I were a chef, I don't know how to cook, but if I were a chef, then whatever I would have created, let's say it took me 4 hours to create a meal or like a lavish meal, it would have been over within 1 hour, right? But here, the 4 hours that I spend in making a wall, it's going to be there for the next 100 years, if not the next 200 years.
True.
So that sense of, shall I say timelessness?
Yeah.
That sense that architecture gives of being really timeless and at the same time, it is also a time machine. Like when I went to the Qutub Minar or when I went to Gangaikonda Cholapuram temple, I just entered that space and I was in the 12th century.
Yeah.
That building acted as a time machine to transport me from one era to another era. So that sense of timelessness that architecture gives is a great is a great responsibility, because what you build today will last on the surface of the earth for the next 50-100 years. So imagine the consciousness with which we have to lay every brick, design every line, lay every plane. So that is a great responsibility. And also that sense of timelessness, that what I'm going to create today will be here much after I'm gone. Like every mother knows, right, that her children will outlive her. Every architect knows that her buildings will outlive her. So you live through your work. And I think that is a great privilege that we have.
That is amazing. So, how do you, design these timeless buildings that you do? Like, what are your ideologies and principles that you follow?
So because we have chosen right from the outset of my career 20 years ago, I very consciously made a decision that I don't want to be on the conveyor belt. I studied architecture in Bombay, and I personally felt that there was very little scope to do sustainable design in Bombay, which is why I shifted my base from Bombay to Pondicherry. And sustainability forms the bedrock of all that we do. So circular design thinking is one of the main principles that we follow in all our projects. That how can we be circular? How can we use buildings as material banks? How can the waste of one process become the wealth of the next process? How can we achieve zero waste? How can we create a minimal footprint on the place where we are standing? How can we go towards net zero water, net zero energy, net zero waste, net zero carbon? How can we achieve all these things? So that forms really the bedrock of what we do. To cite an example, the Gratitude Villa that we just completed, we were awarded by India's National Green Building Rating Agency, GRIHA, for the exemplary performance under the Sustainable Materials and Technologies category. And we were awarded by the Minister of Climate Change, Shri Bhupendra Yadav, for having achieved this. And the reason why we got this award, I mean, it really topped the nation's list in this field. The reason we got this award is because through one single villa, one single residence of around 5,000-6,000 square feet, we were able to reduce 182 tons of carbon dioxide. 182 tons of carbon dioxide. And 1 ton typically requires about 6 mature trees to fix. So we have literally saved 1,100 mature trees by building one house. Those 1,100 trees would have required about 69 acres to plant. So one house has saved 1,100 trees. So this is inspiration enough for us to, continue to do and excel at what we have set out for ourselves.
That is true. That is true. So, ma'am, what word of advice would you like to give to the upcoming designers?
Connect with the earth. Connect with the soil. Walk barefoot on the soil every day. Walk barefoot on the soil every day. Because once you are connected with the earth, then you don't need any school, you don't need any do's and don'ts, you don't need anybody preaching any principles to you, you don't need anybody telling you do this, don't do this, be sustainable, there is climate change and this ozone layer and the ice caps are melting. All that, you don't need to know all of that mentally, you just feel it. You feel it in your soul. That's a good pun. You feel it in the sole of your feet and you feel it in your soul. So, just I think walk barefoot on the earth every day for a while. That's my advice.
That is an amazing advice and a different one, I think. That was a treat talking to you, ma'am. I think this interview will be like an inspiration to all the people watching out there. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you, Asta. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be here.